Good evening, everyone. We continue our study to wrap up Second Kings chapter 15. We are now in verse 25. Now, we were talking about Menachem, and during the time of Menachem, we had the king of Assyria, Pul, to come and wanted to conquer the northern kingdom. But Menachem actually made a pact and gave him money or tribute to solidify his control over the nation. So we left it at that part of time. And then at the end of his life, uh, he then died. After he died, then his son, uh, Pekahiah, right here, ruled in verse 22. His son actually ruled for a very short period of time. And that period of time is about 2 years. And right now, we are now in verse 25, and we continue from Pekahiah. And why did he die? And why did he only rule for 2 years? One of the characteristics that you would find in the northern kingdom from the time of Zechariah, right here. Zechariah is the last descendant of Yehu. And in that, he would be the fourth descendant as promised by God. And from that time onwards, you find that there is a lot of assassination attempts to take control of the throne, each of them in successive order, including now the son of Menachem, whose name is Pekahiah. And then Pekah, the son of Remaliahu or Remaliah, his officer. You can think of it as his officer, his general, one of his lieutenants. In some cases, some people would place him as his bodyguard. And then we continually see this particular word to conspire. Now, to conspire really means to plan a treason. I think that would be a good way of looking at it. Uh, the idea of conspiration came about from the Queen Atalia, because that is when we begin to see this word continually being used since that time. And so there will be successive revolts, conspiration, treason to find a way to attempt and to kill the queen or the king and then take over the throne. So you find that it was a conspiration against him. Him would be Pekahiah, and struck him in Samaria, where the palace was, in the castle of the king's house. Now comes two names. We have here Argof and Arye. We would take it for now that these two names are the conspirators rather than names of a place. Conspirators with Pekah or Pekah, if you want to call him that way, Pekah. And with him were 50 men of the Gileadites. Gilead is a place which is actually somewhat south of the Galilee to the western shore. Uh, it is in the land of Israel. And so they conspired, and he, Pekah, killed him, Pekayahu, and became king in his place. So this is a series of treason. Verse 26, now for the rest of the acts of uh, Pekahiah and everything that he did, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel, which is lost. Now, the interesting thing is that even though it is an assassination, you find that the northern kingdom never really had a prolonged succession from a single house of Jeroboam. Whereas the southern kingdom of Judah always had the succession from the house of David and Solomon. However bad they may be, they continually succeeded the previous generation, including one where every one of the sons were killed, that you will find Jehoram being kept as a descendant from the throne of David. And so, even after Athaliah, the queen, who actually usurped the throne, every one of them were from the house of David. Now, interestingly, the acts of Athaliah were never mentioned. And now we have Pekah, who took over the throne of the northern kingdom. Verse 27, in the 52nd year of Azariah, the king of Judah, Azariah, the king of Judah, would be Uzziah as well. Pekah, the son of Remaliah, became king over Israel in Samaria, and he reigned for 20 years. Now, from here on, I would like to point your attention to how the Hebrew people refer to specific individuals. You find that every one of the names are also associated to a father, Pekah, the son of Remaliah. And so it is quite interesting to see how this is actually done in the Hebrew Bible. Verse 28, he did evil in the eyes of God. This seems to be a perpetual statement of the northern kingdom. The southern kingdom is about the high places. The northern kingdom is about the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nevat, into which he misled Israel. The fact that it's continually repeated and called an evil is bad because this is misleading the children of Israel into idolatry, of which the golden calves were placed in Bethel as well as in Dan. They kept this as a tradition of the northern kingdom, and God sees this as evil. Now, obviously, along the way, they would have Baal, Ashtoreth, and a number of other foreign gods. But here, they made Bethel and Dan with two golden calves to replace the location of Jerusalem and called them the Elohim who brought them out of Egypt as a misdirection of the people. And God calls this evil, and these are the mistakes of Jeroboam, the son of Nevat. God is looking at them at each of the generation of the kings. Even if they had usurped the throne, they did not do away with the tradition of the northern kingdom. Verse 29 begins a very important milestone of the northern kingdom. In the days of Pekah, the king of Israel, then we have this Tilgat-Pileser. Tilgat-Pileser is the name of the king of Assyria. This marks the beginning of the downfall of the northern kingdom. In the days of Pekah, somewhere here, Tiglath-Pileser came and took. Now, the word took means, and then he conquered. There are a number of territories. Irion, this is Avel, Bet Maakah, this is Yanoak. And then we have Kadesh, we have Hatzor, a very important place in the northern territories. Then we'll have Gilad. And then the Galilee region, the Galilee, all the land of Naphtali, and he led their populations into exile to Assyria. Now, this word here is to cause, to remove. I think that would be a good way to take into exile. So let their populations into exile is actually one word, is to take them into exile. Now, the question is, did they take all to exile? And the answer is no, not all. So we need to say this is a milestone of the decay of Israel. And this is the beginning of the destruction. This is the first of the exiles. Now, what does this mean is that Tiglath-Pileser, the king of Assyria, not only conquered the northern territories, which is Galilee and all of Naphtali, which is slightly lower below Galilee. So all of this region is the first to be taken because they are all part of the north. But not all the north were conquered. They were mainly major places. And so there are people who were taken into exile. So please do not read this as every single individual where there is no man left in the territory. This word, their population, is all the land of Naphtali. And it is not all as in every single individual. It is all as in many or a majority of the people. Verse 30, after the days of Pekah, there will be a challenge. As the northern kingdom is being confronted with the king of Assyria, Pekah begins to show signs of weakness. When you lose territory to the enemy forces, you are no longer seen to be strong. And then in verse 30, we have this. And then Hoshea, the son of Elah, formed a conspiracy, a treason, a plan to assassinate Pekah. So against Pekah, the son of Remaliah or Remaliahu, struck him and killed him. And then we have Hoshea became king in his place in the 20th year of Jotham, the son of Uzziah. So we would see it as this point in time. Now, this is a bit of an anomaly, and we'll see the correction of the anomaly. For one reason, Hoshea became king after Jotham had died, and Ahaz was already king. But Ahaz is not mentioned because Ahaz is not a good king. And so here in verse 30, he says that he is king in the 20th year of Jotham. Essentially, to note a very important event, Azariah, Uzziah, as well as Jotham, is well known to be what we call the silver kingdom of the land of Judah. The empire and the kingdom of Judah experienced some of the best years in the time of Uzziah and Jotham. Very little is said about Jotham. We'll talk about it shortly. But here we see the what we call an anomaly, where after Jotham died, he is now in the time of Ahaz. Hosea's reign was linked to Jotham rather than Ahaz. This is a very peculiar event. Verse 31 now, for the rest of the acts of Pekah and all that he did, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel, which is missing. Verse 32. In the second year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel, now we talk about the southern kingdom. Jotham, the son of Uzziah, the king of Judah, became king, which is here, which is right after Pekah became king. We have now the beginnings of the note to the reign of Jotham. In verse 33, he was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 16 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. Now, it may be that she was the daughter of the high priest, but more importantly, that it is interesting to see that when he was 25 years old and he became king, you should notice that his 16 years by himself, he also started to reign on behalf of Uzziah way earlier, when Uzziah was struck with Metzorah, some form of leprosy, because he decided to offer incense in the temple. And so when Uzziah had to stay outside the camp, where he had his own administration in a place by himself because of the laws of God, Jotham was in charge on behalf of Uzziah for that period of time. So he continued the reign after Uzziah died. Verse 34, Jotham did what was right in the eyes of God. Right means yasha, straight, in the eyes of God. Notice the contrast. Every time we talk about the northern kingdom, they did what was evil, what was displeasing in the eyes of God. But the southern kingdom with Jotham, he did what was yasha in the eyes of God. He did in accordance with everything his father Uzziah had done. And in this case, you find that the period of Uzziah and Jotham, they both together, father and son, did extremely well. They were called the period of the Silver Kingdom. The Golden Kingdom is referred to David and Solomon. And Uzziah and Jotham did everything that was right in the eyes of God. But in verse 35, there is always a but. Only the Bama were not completely removed. The people still sacrificed and burnt incense on the Bama. What does that mean? It means that the high places, or what we call the Bama, were originally there in the time of the judges. Before they had Shiloh, and then before they had Jerusalem, people from all over the place where they had a high place, they actually built a little altar where they would offer sacrifices and incense to Jehovah. And you would find that this in itself is against the rule after God had appointed Jerusalem the place to go. But God did not strike them dead because it is the authority of the king to do everything that God has said in the Torah, that everyone must go to the appointed place to serve God. However, the southern kings have perennially ignored that rule, and he allowed them to continually do this. And God does not see it as evil, but sees it as a mistake or something that's wrong, something that the king is missing in the acts that he was doing. Whereas in the north, you find that God sees as evil whatever Jeroboam, the son of Nevat, had did by building two places in Bethel and Dan, where he placed the golden calves. Now, if you read the story, not only they had golden calves, they had priests. They replaced Jerusalem. Whereas in the southern kingdom, these little Bama, the private altars, did replace Jerusalem, but it was not in the way of leading them astray to think of these as the God in Jerusalem. Whereas in Bethel and Dan, it was clearly Jeroboam, the son of Nevat's intent that this golden calves were the God, the Elohim that brought them out of Egypt. Verse 36 now, for the rest of the acts of Jotham, which he did, are they not written in the book of Chronicles of the kings of Judah? We are informed that this would be the first and second Chronicles. Verse 37 and 38. Verse 37 and 38 presents to us the final verses in chapter 15. Now, the reason why it's presented this way is because tomorrow, when we do chapter 16, you will find that chapter 16 focuses everything on Ahaz, the son of Jotham. So in those days, the Lord began to send Rezin, the king of Syria, Aram, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, against Judah. You find that this is important here. This period of time after Jotham, but at the time of Pekah, before the next king, Hoshea. So we have Rezin, the king of Aram, Pekah, the son of Remaliah, which is this Pekah here. Before he died, together with the king of Aram, had plotted to attack Ahaz. And we will continue with that tomorrow in chapter 16. Verse 38. And Jotham lay down with his fathers, and he was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And his son Ahaz became king in his place. And so this sets up for us three persons. One, Rezin. Two, Pekah. And three, Ahaz. And together, these become the primary individuals in Isaiah chapter 7 to 9. And so tomorrow, when we come back and we study chapter 16, please spend some time to look at particularly Isaiah chapter 7 as well. And with this, we come to the end of our session today.